Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tracy's Tuesday Talk. It is October 27th, and we are here with Kim. Those of you who know, she's on this side of me on the screen. Um, know her as Kimber. Well, I'm not even going to say your last name. I'm going to not do that. But everybody knows her as Kim, and Kim is married to Doug. And so we're going to get a little bit of an update on Kim and Doug. And then she's going to tell us some interesting and exciting things that the church can help us, help her with and get involved with. Continuing our What is Church Outside the Church Walls idea that we like to spin it that way rather than what are we doing in the pandemic. So I like it. I like that better.
Me too.
So those of you that kind of have followed me, I am. It is this last Tuesday of the month, and last Tuesday of the month, I usually do the whole romper room thing where I shout out to those of you who have celebrated birthdays or anniversaries or special celebrations, and who have had like interesting people that show up on your front lawn during this month and to celebrate with you, short or long, it doesn't matter. But here are for the month of October, and I have to say one apology to Donna and Gord. We're going to celebrate your anniversary from September. We're going to celebrate it now because I just found out about it now. So there you go. You're my first romper room, Donna and Gord. And I also want to say happy birthday to Barbara, to Laurie, to Elaine. Elaine's is coming up. To me, to Tracy, to Karen, to Marilyn, Mark, Paul, and Leo. And those anniversaries that we celebrated this month in October are Dennis and Pauline and Cheryl and John. So happy celebrating to all of you. Thank you for sharing that with us. And if I missed anybody, you'll have to apologize because we weren't tattled about your celebration days. So we can do that in what's that called when you do something backwards? Anyway, doesn't matter. We can do it in the next month and we can include you. So let us know. Wanda always says, yeah, tattle on your neighbors and tell on your spouse and all those kinds of things. So we have to take her to heart. So thank you for joining us, Kim. We're so excited that you're here with us. And we haven't seen a lot of each other. You and I were just saying it's been a long time since we haven't seen each other's faces. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think for a lot of folks, it's been way too long since we've been able to get in touch and spend some time together, but this is nice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So how are you? How's Doug? How are you both?
To be honest, all things considered, we're actually doing okay. Yeah. It certainly had some challenges early on in the pandemic, and Doug is working from home and trying to adjust to that being his permanent new reality. So yeah, that's a big change. Working in the healthcare field during a pandemic is definitely a little bit unexpected in a variety of ways. But I think all around, I felt really well supported by amazing friends and family, and knowing that there's lots of love and prayers out there for all of us. And that makes a really big difference right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And being flexible around around our reality too, right? Like your mom was telling me that she was so thrilled that Thanksgiving actually happened in the house and some adjustments had to be made and it still happened and it's great. It's perfect. Right. So we can do this, people, we can do it when we're keeping safety in mind, we can still do it. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, it just takes a little bit of creativity, flexibility, and a lot of patience, I think, too, because this is not easy for anyone, and we just do the best we can.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Yeah. So I know your challenges are probably a lot bigger than most of us who are not in the healthcare field. But what have been some of your biggest challenges during COVID?
I think the biggest thing that's challenging is how quickly information is changing and how quickly our understanding is changing, because science is an imperfect process and we take big leaps and we gain a lot of knowledge and then have to stop and reassess things. So I think realizing that our understanding of what the best practices are going to be is it's going to change, and guidelines are going to change depending on how things are going in the community, how our current techniques are panning out. So I think we can't disregard science just because it keeps changing. That's just the nature of the beast. It means that we just have to be really thoughtful about what we're doing. And even if what we're doing doesn't end up being the best, if we're being as safe as possible, even if masking ends up being overkill, I'd rather know that I did everything I could and masked all the time and been as kind and compassionate and empathetic to others as I could. And I think that's the most important thing, is just remembering the humanity in all of this.
That's awesome. That's so great. Yeah. And what if anything would you describe might be a silver lining in all this, or or some good that's come out of it?
To be honest, there are a lot of good things. There's been a lot of hardship and a lot of loss. There are some serious silver linings that I think we do need to appreciate. First of all, I'm a huge fan of masking. I love that. Like, I never want people to breathe on me again. I'm a huge fan. I also love the 6 feet thing in lines. You have so much space. No one's crowding you or bumping you with their cart again. Like, lovely, lovely. But realize too is how important it is to listen to our bodies. Because right now, when people are sick, we're being so careful about staying home and self-isolating because we don't want to infect anyone else. And we should probably do that all the time. Like, it's okay to have sick days. It's okay to take time off. It's okay to listen to your body and take time to heal and also protect others. And we should do that going forward, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think a lot of us have used, I mean, most of us could say we pushed through, right? We
Yeah.
pushed through. And how many people did we infect with that cold as we
Mhm.
push through, right? We don't need to push through. That's the thing. And we've learned very quickly that we can, like, our companies carry on from us working at home, right? I'm not sick enough to not work, but
Mhm.
I'm not feeling well enough to potentially infect some other people, but I could do work at home. And so I think that's opened up a lot of possibility for sure in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful thing coming out of this, is working from home, figuring out a bit more of that life balance, because we should be working to live, not living to work.
Yes, I agree. I agree. What are you looking forward to, if anything, in the fall right now, this time of year?
So Doug and I, actually, our new pandemic hobby is dry suit scuba diving. So
Yes.
certified over the summer, and our plan is to, we've been diving in Minnewanka and in Forget Me Not Pond in Bragg Creek there. And we want to get a bit more experience because we plan this summer, or this winter, sorry, to get our ice diver certification, because there's an underwater ice hockey team that we want to join. Yeah.
What? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
they dive out at Minnewanka on the underside of the ice, and you dry suit dive on the underside of the ice with floating hockey nets, and you play hockey while scuba diving with a floating puck.
That is insane and yet so fun. That sounds
It's the
awesome.
most Canadian thing I could think of.
That's for sure. I love it. That is something to look forward to. And we may have to show some of those pictures at some point.
I definitely will. Doug's a wizard with the GoPro while we're diving, so we'll be sure to share some photos and videos.
I know, I was amazed at the photos of Forget Me Not Pond. Like, there was actual, it looks like there was a civilization down there. Like, I know, it looked like there was like a gravestone, and like it looked like buildings or walls or something. I don't know. It looked like all sorts of interesting things. Yeah.
It's incredibly cool, I have to say. Like, our backyard is incredible in Alberta, and the one really nice thing about the pandemic and not traveling internationally is it really forces you to take a look in your neighborhood around you and in this area and explore it and see all these places that you might have neglected otherwise, because nature is incredibly beautiful and we're so lucky.
Yeah, we are. That's for sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. And so one of the questions that I've been asking other people is where they see God right now. Where's God's presence? And I mentioned this to you before we started recording, but many of us see God in you and other healthcare workers for sure. And that's the biggest answer, that's the number one answer that I've gotten from most people. And so I'm just wondering, from a healthcare person's point of view, where do you see God?
To be honest, in my patients, because things right now are really scary, and people, when they come in, are being isolated in their rooms. And even though it's really hard for people and they can't visit with their families and do the same physiotherapy they would otherwise, people have been not only understanding, but going out of their way to really help us in all of the little ways that people can. One of my patients was a traveling salesman for 57 years. So he had a very large pen collection. And when he saw that we still do all of our charting using pen and paper, he actually had his wife bring in a huge collection of pens. So whenever we went to go see him, he would give us pens. And honestly, pens in healthcare are like worth their weight in gold. It's a hot commodity. And it's just those little ways of showing each other love and support that make a world of difference. And that's those sources of strength that can keep you carrying on when things get tough.
For sure, for sure. And that kind of leads me into your new, is it volunteering that you're doing?
Yeah.
I'm going to save the crazy question for the end, but you're volunteering, so it kind of segues nicely into some of the work that you're doing outside of your busy career and your busy life of diving and doctoring. And so tell us about that, about this new venture that you're taking on.
Well, this is a project called the Bear Clan Patrol, and I heard about it this summer because I think, like a lot of people, when I heard about the Black Lives Matters movement going on in the US and in Canada and around the world, I definitely wanted to figure out a way in which I could learn more about it and learn more about these issues and be involved. But I wasn't necessarily sure about the right way to go about it and how I could make not an impact necessarily, but how I could contribute to the movement, but also help raise the voices of people that often aren't heard.
Right.
That's a really important component of, I think, contributing to this sort of movement.
Mhm.
It was while I was going to some of the Black and Indigenous Lives Matters activities out in Edmonton and Leduc and Lacombe and all of those, that I heard about something called the Bear Clan Patrol. And that's actually been around in Canada for a few years now. It was started out in Winnipeg. And it's Indigenous-led community groups where they find areas of the city that they're working within. And people from that community help to create a group that works together just to clean up the neighborhood and make it better and safer for people. And oddly enough, it takes very different forms in very different parts of the city. So there's actually two patrols in Calgary. There's an East Village and there's a Forest Lawn.
Mm.
And the beautiful thing about them is the communities get to know these people because they're neighbors, they're friends, they're community activists, they're social workers that work in that neighborhood. So it's people that are familiar with the issues, familiar with the rough spots, and they talk to neighbors and friends and get information about areas that maybe there's some sharks lying around that need to be cleaned up, or hearing about someone that looks roughed up and might need some help and isn't comfortable calling the police. So it's a beautiful way to help connect community members to resources. And those resources are people from their community. It's people that understand their context, that understand their challenges, and that understand why they might be hesitant to call the police or to call EMS because they've had negative experiences before, but those people still need help.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. That's amazing. It's very grassroots, right? It's very, this is my community. I want to look after my community. And I see some places that need help. I don't exactly know how to do that on my own. So let's do it together. Yeah. Yeah. That's
It's a
awesome.
beautiful part.
Yeah, and so I know Karen was telling us about it at the outreach meeting, saying that you're now involved in this, and some other people have asked me about it. So I'm glad you're explaining it. And so, what does it actually entail? Like, what does it look like for you?
So we get together. I typically do the Friday evening patrol, which is the Forest Lawn Patrol. There's a Friday afternoon one in the East Village as well. But I can't get off work early enough to make that work. So we meet together in the parking lot and talk a little bit about what donations we have and what things we're going to be handing out that night, as well as if there's a specific area that we've been called to look at. So one time there was a group of kids that were vandalizing a car that we were going to go and clean up some of the results of some of the vandalism, and or areas that there's sharps that need to be cleaned up. So we create a bit of a game plan for the night. But one thing that's really important to the group, because the group is Indigenous led, we all do a bit of a moment for smudging and a prayer as well beforehand, just to sort of recognize the land that we're on, that it's Treaty 7 land, as well as what we're trying to do as a group and what we're trying to do within wider society. So it's really nice to have that moment to really connect to that Indigenous spiritual aspect, as well as to recognize what this group is. And it is a group of Indigenous leaders trying to create positive change within their community. So it's get involved in that element. And then we fill up our wagons and we have donations of food, so sandwiches and fruits and things from the community. And then we also have harm reduction supplies from SafeWorks. So SafeWorks is an Alberta Health Services organization, and they do harm reduction supplies throughout the city. And that's clean needles and naloxone kits, but that's also different pipes for smoking crack or smoking heroin or meth, as well as clean agents to help cut your drugs. So that way people aren't cutting their drugs with antifreeze or things that would be harmful to them. And then they also supply things like condoms and other harm reduction supplies in that way. So we typically walk as a group. No one ever goes alone, and we walk through the neighborhood, through some of the areas that that we know that there's groups of folks, specifically women working in the sex trade, or areas that tend to have more sharps. And we meet with people and chat with them and hand out hygiene supplies and food and just get to know people and make sure that they're okay. And naloxone or pipes and things as people need them. And as we move through the community, we pick up sharps and other forms of dangerous trash that we encounter along the road just to help clean up the community a little bit. But one important element of doing this work, specifically in Calgary with women that work in the sex trade, is to get to know those women. And we don't take photographs just out of privacy and confidentiality reasons, but to get to know the women that are working on the streets and to develop a relationship with them so they have people that they can feel safe talking to if things happen. And that also allows us to create a bit of a mind photo book of those women. So that way, if people start to go missing, we're actually able to notice, because keeping track of people is something that can be quite difficult. And we do know that murdered and missing Indigenous women is an area that has been quite neglected in regards to law enforcement. So it's important to keep track of these women as best we can.
Mhm. Wow, that's a pretty packed program, and there's lots going on there, and I love the idea of harm reduction. So it's not about judging, it's not about uh, getting people. I mean, if they ask for help, they can ask for help, but it's not about that. It's about immediate, how to keep you safe right now. And so and then I think that actually opens doors to that, meeting people where they are at. What we kind of promote in the church too, right? Meet people where they're at. But when we're talking about on the street, dirty, getting into the weeds of life, I mean, that's the reality, is this is what it means to meet people where they're at, right? And how that can actually create almost like an instant safe space for folks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's so important for folks like this that feel really unsafe in a lot of areas of their life, is they need some people to talk to where they know that they can get help, that they can get food. We've had some times where people have needed some more help. So I've done first aid, or there's been people too that have wanted help right away in regards to their addiction. So we've been able to help arrange them to have beds at things like Alpha House. So for some folks, depending on where they're at, some people are just at a place where they just need clean equipment, and other people are at a place where they're ready to make a change. And it's important to show them love and compassion and empathy, no matter where people are at.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So great. And then we're going to actually, we have been asking the congregation to get involved in providing some of those needed items that you need for those kinds of things, for those kinds of nights. And so right now, what are you looking for? I know that you're looking for socks and winter attire. What else? Underwear.
Yes, those sorts of things are very, very much needed and very much appreciated. Any other hygiene supplies people have, things like deodorant is really wonderful. Pads and tampons is very much
Yep.
appreciated. Toothbrushes and toothpaste, especially the little travel ones, is another really lovely thing. And then any toques or mitts that people have, or blankets too, are a really hot commodity. Preferably not huge duvets, that's doesn't fit well in our little wagon. But any smaller blankets would be absolutely wonderful. And any donations that we have that we find either, we can't find someone that needs that, or it doesn't fit in our wagons to take with us, all of that actually we bring down to the drop-in center. So anything that doesn't work well for Bear Clan Patrol goes to a place where people will absolutely need it. So any donations people have is very, very much appreciated, because it goes from our hands directly into the hands of people that need it.
That's so great. That's so great. So those of you that are listening, we will have 2 bins available at the church that you can drop off. One bin obviously is always for our Veterans Association Food Bank, and now being coming into November, that's a big priority for folks to fill that up. But also we'll have another bin for the Bear Clan Patrol. So bring an item for each as you come by, right? I think, sure, why not?
It'd be very much appreciated. And if anyone does want to come and join us on a patrol, it's one of those things that sounds a little bit intimidating. And I know at first my mom, even who'd worked at the drop-in center quite a bit, wanted a bit more information first. But the Facebook group for Bear Clan Patrol Calgary is a great source of information, but I'd also be happy to chat with people about it, because it's a really wonderful way, I think, to challenge even some of your own stigmas about some of the people that you meet, because everyone that I've met has been so lovely, so appreciative and grateful. And I've had nothing but positive interactions, even though walking around Forest Lawn at 9 o'clock at night on a Friday could seem really kind of sketchy and intimidating. I've had nothing but good experiences. And because we're in a big group, it always feels really safe. And it's a great way to really learn about a different side of society that you may not encounter in your day-to-day life.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it's all about, right? I mean, this is our faith being lived out as far as I'm concerned, right? That's what we do. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. So now my crazy question at the end here. If you could choose a ice cream flavor, or if you could have a certain superhero power, what would it be and why?
Good question. Okay, I'm gonna go with the ice cream flavor. I think I would be Rocky Road. And there's method to the madness, because I think, like every single human being, I've got some bits of me that are a little bit crunchy that could use a little bit of work. I've got some nutty parts, but then I also have some soft, squishy, marshmallowy bits that are really lovely. So I'd like to think of myself as Rocky Road.
I love that. That's so great. That actually, it describes you perfectly. Describes most of us, I think, perfectly. Right? We have crunchy bits. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and to the rest of you, I just wish everybody has a great week this week. And yeah, stay safe. We're gonna celebrate All Saints Day on Sunday, talking about the saints of the United Church of Canada. So tune into that, and watch out for Justin's check-in on Thursday. I think we might be trying something different on Thursday, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes and how the planning goes on that. So thanks, everybody. You take care, and we'll talk to you next week.